So easy to love, so easy to idolize all others above. So worth the yearning for, so swell to keep every hot fire burning for. We'd be so grand at the game, so carefree together that it does seem a shame that you can't see your future with me, 'cause you'd be all so easy to love. Thank you all for coming out tonight to this, the Manhattan Plaza Ellington Room. That song I just played for you, it's almost 100 years old. And it was written by Cole Porter. And it's personal, but universal. It makes a simple point in a kind of classy way. And it's vulnerable, which is very Cole Porter to me. But who was Cole Porter? What kind of person was he? Where did he come from? What kind of influences affected him throughout his life? Well, Cole Porter was born in 1891 in Indiana. I mean, imagine, right? His father was a small businessman, but he was also a fairly accomplished musician and poet. His mother was the daughter of the richest man in Indiana, which made Cole the richest little boy in Indiana. And Cole was their third child, but he was actually their first and only child to survive past the age of 2. So when Cole came along and survived, his mother poured all of her love and caring into him and support, and she was his first champion. At the age of 6, she provided him with violin lessons. At the age of 8, he wanted to switch to the piano. And by the time he was 10, he'd written so many songs and operettas that she was having them printed out as sheet music and published. And this was to encourage him, but also perhaps to show off a little bit to friends and family, because she's known to have altered his birth certificate to make him seem 2 years younger. So he would seem like even more of a prodigy than he even was. When Cole graduated from grammar school in Indiana, he enrolled at a private boarding school in New England, and he brought his piano with him. Think about that, a 12-year-old going across country, gotta have my piano with me. But I think even at an early age, he knew that the piano was going to be his best friend. In fact, he had a thing he used to do where whoever happened to be in the room, he would make off-the-cuff songs about them. How entertaining must that have been in a day and age when there was no movies or TV or radio, but somebody's making up a song about you, you know? Now, when Cole graduated from this boarding school in New England, he graduated valedictorian, which is an indication of how smart he was, but also how well-liked he was by the students and the faculty. And as a reward for graduating at such a high level, his grandfather gave him a tour of Europe, an extended tour. And this is where the boy from Indiana became a continental, a man of the world. It was his first taste of cafe society. And he was very good at absorbing everything that he experienced. He learned about different politics and history. He learned about fine food and fine wine, all forms of art and culture, and music. And like I say, a lot of times when he would hear something or learn something, he would tuck it away and it would percolate up through his creative process, and he would use it in his writing. For instance, this song, it has a sort of a Latin underpinning. I think it's not a pure Latin. I think it's sort of Americanized, it's sort of Porterized. And you see what you think. I think he felt that the Latin sensibility would help enhance the telling of the story, because the song is set in a tropical paradise, sort of Latin, you know. Brings back the sound of music so tender. Brings back a night of tropical splendor. Brings back a memory of a green. I'm with you once more under the stars. Down by the shore an orchestra's playing. Even the palms seem to be swaying when they begin the beginning. To live it again is past all endeavor, except when that tune clutches my heart. There we are, swearing love forever, and promising never to part. What moments divine, what rapture serene. The clouds came along to disperse the joy we had tasted. Now when I hear people curse a chance wasted, I know too well what they mean. Oh, let them begin the making, make them play. Till the stars that were there before return above you. Till you whisper once more, darling, I love you. And we suddenly know what heaven we're in. When they begin the beginning.
Yeah! Wow!
You know, Irving Berlin used to tease him about that song, because you know how it sort of sounds like it's almost over, and then it starts up again? He'd say like, oh, Cole, how's that long song of yours going? You having any luck with that one? But he really was a big fan of Cole Porter. In fact, he's known to have said often to Cole Porter in front of other people, anything I can do, you can do better. Which is an adorable thing for one songwriter to say about another songwriter. He really was such a champion of his work that there was a time when one of Cole's shows was going to fail. It looked like people weren't buying tickets, and it looked like it was going to have to close early. But Irving Berlin took out ads in all the major papers saying how great the show was, best collection of songs anywhere by anyone, and ticket sales picked up. The show was saved, had a good run after that. So I think it speaks well, perhaps also of the quality of Cole Porter's work, and perhaps him as a person. You don't do that for somebody you don't like. But also it says something about Irving Berlin. What a nice thing to do. Cole Porter wrote words and music for Broadway shows and movies. That's what Irving Berlin did. They did exactly the same thing. You could imagine that Irving Berlin might think of Cole as a competitor. Say, I don't care if his show fails, but such was his regard for Cole that he just didn't want to see the guy's show fail. And I just think it's really admirable and kind of a charming quality. Now, when Cole returned from his European tour, he entered Yale. And he said to have written almost 300 songs while he was there, and some of them are still done by the student body. One of the most famous one is probably the Yale Bulldog Fight Song. It's one of their football teams. And he was very active on campus in all the performance groups, the Whiff and Poofs, the Glee Club. He wrote for them, he performed in them. And I would say, you know, New Haven is just a stone's throw from Manhattan by train. And Cole would often come down to the city on the evenings or on a weekend, and they'd take in everything that the city had to offer, like parties, lots of big parties, great nightclubs, all kinds of arts and culture, and Broadway shows. I think Cole learned a lot about what works in a Broadway show and what doesn't work in a Broadway show by seeing a lot of Broadway shows. And I think, like most of us, they probably just like to spend a little time just strolling the streets of Manhattan. The night is young, skies are clear. If you wanna go walking, dear, it's delightful, it's delicious, it's the lovely. I understand the reason why you're sentimental, 'cause so am I. It's delightful, it's delicious, it's the lovely. You can tell at a glance what a swell night this is for romance. You can hear Mother Nature murmuring low. Let yourself go. So please be sweet, my chickadee. When I kiss you, just say to me, it's delightful, it's delicious, it's delectable, it's delirious, it's dilemma, it's the limit, it's the love. It's delightful, it's the limit, it's the love. It's the lovely. Is there something jingling over there? Is there something jingling? I hear some kind of jingling sound.
It's tambourine.
Oh, could you set that down so it doesn't? Thank you, appreciate it. Yeah, those tend to just reverberate no matter what's going on in the room. Now, being wealthy himself, I think Cole would often find himself in the company of very, very rich men with their girlfriends. And I think I met one of those girlfriends once. I was in a very nice club on the Upper East Side, and a small group of very well-heeled gentlemen walked in with their girlfriends. And most of them went off to their table, but one of them came and sat with me. And we were chatting between songs, and she was watching me play, and she was just enjoying the atmosphere, maybe enjoying the fact that she wasn't with them. But I said to her after a little while, you know, are you sure they're not going to be mad at you because, you know, you're not sitting with them? And she just rolled her eyes at me and said, like, oh, listen, they're big boys, they'll be fine. They need me more than I need them. Don't worry about it. And I thought, like, wow, what's it like to be that confident, you know? But anyway, whenever I play this song, or whenever I hear somebody play it, I always think of that person. If a custom-tailored vet asks me out for something wet, if a vet begins to pet, I say, okay. But I'm always true to you, darling, in my fashion. I'm always true to you, darling, in my way. I've been asked to have a meal by a big tycoon in steel. If the meal includes a deal, accept I may. But I'm always true to you, darling, in my fashion. I'm always true to you, darling, in my way. a man known as Tex, who's keen to give me checks, and his checks, I fear, mean Tex is here to stay. But I'm always true to you, darling, in my fashion. Always true to you, darling, in my way. From Ohio, Mr. Thorne rings me up from night till morn. Mr. Thorne wants cornered corn, and that ain't hay. But I'm always true to you, darling, in my fashion. I'm always true to you, darling, in my way. One more. This girl, apparently she got around. She had a lot of friends. From Milwaukee, Mr. Fritz wines and dines me at the Ritz. Mr. Fritz invented Schlitz, so Schlitz can pay. But I'm always true to you, darling, in my fashion. I'm always true to you, darling, in my way. Yes, I'm always true to you, darling, in my fashion. I am always true to you, darling, in my way.
Yeah.
Thank you. You sound like a lot of people. I love that. Thank you. Now, Cole's grandfather, who was the source of all his wealth, had his heart set on Cole becoming a lawyer, right? So after a few years at Yale, off he went to Harvard Law. But after a few months at Harvard Law, it became really clear that Cole was not cut out for the law. And he was getting advice from his teachers and faculty advisors. You know, you should really stick with your strengths, which are music, literature. And so Cole changed his major, didn't tell his grandfather, and his mother didn't tell his grandfather, which I thought was really nice of her. And when he graduated from Harvard, it was right about the time that World War I was breaking out. And Cole volunteered to go to Europe and join a relief agency. There's a rumor that goes around, it's fairly documented, but who knows, that he joined the French Foreign Legion. Okay, he's actually listed on the rolls of former members of the French Foreign Legion, but I do have a little trouble with this story because he's supposed to have had a portable piano built so that he could carry it on his back and entertain the troops in their encampments. I have a hard time seeing Cole Porter slogging through the North African desert with a piano on his back, but I suppose it's possible. I have to say though, I have no trouble picturing Cole never being far from a piano. As I say, from an early age, I think he always knew the piano was going to be his best friend. It was going to draw people to him, it was going to create entree for him into the world. While he was in Europe, he had a very, very nice apartment, luxurious apartment. If you can imagine Versailles meets an apartment, that's kind of what he had. And just to give you an idea, in our money today, if he was renting that apartment, he would have been paying $70,000 a month. And he would throw extravagant parties. At one party, he was known to have hired the entire Ballet Russe to come and entertain for his guests. What was that cost? And his parties were also known to be quite scandalous for their time. There was a lot of licentious behavior going on. I think some of us, well, licentious is more than risque. It's way more than risque. And there was also a lot of free-flowing alcohol. There was also a lot of recreational drugs. And it occurred to me that perhaps he was thinking of those parties when he penned this one. I get no kick from champagne.
Yeah.
Mere alcohol doesn't thrill me at all. So tell me, why should it be true that I get a kick out of you. Some get a kick from cocaine. I'm sure that if I took even one sniff, that would bore me terrifically too. But I get a kick out of you. I get a kick every time I see you, just standing there before me. I get a kick, though it's clear to me you obviously do not adore me. I get no kick in a plane, flying too high with my head in the sky is my idea of nothing to do. Oh, but I get a kick. I get a kick. I get a kick out of you. You know, speaking of Paris, I realized when I was researching this show that I actually have a very early connection to Cole Porter's music. I used to sing one of his songs around the house all the time when I was like 4 or 5. I don't know where I picked it up. It's from Can Can. I don't know why a 5-year-old is singing songs from Can Can, but there you are. But this is that song. It appealed to my childish heart, I guess. I love Paris in the springtime. I love Paris in the fall. I love Paris in the summer when it sizzles. I love Paris in the winter when it drizzles. I love Paris every moment of the year. I love Paris. Why, oh why do I love Paris? Because my love is there. I love Paris. Why, oh why do I love Paris? Because my love is there. I'm not sure if I even knew where Paris was at the time, but something about the song appealed to me. Now, after the war, Cole returned to the United States, and he met the woman that he would marry. Linda Lee Thomas was a socialite from Kentucky. She was 8 years older than Cole. She was 3 times richer than Cole, and she was recently divorced from a very abusive marriage. Now, in those days, these are the very early years of the 20th century. Even with all her wealth, Linda would not have been accepted into polite society as a divorcee. So she needed to be married. For his part, Cole was gay. I think most people know that now. I think it's a secret everybody knows. But in those days, again, the very early years of the 20th century, it wasn't possible to be out and proud. I mean, Cole could have been ostracized from society. He could have had any chance of a career derailed before it even started. He could even have been thrown in jail. That's the way things were back then. So he needed to be married. He was pushing 30, and tongues were beginning to wag. For her part, I mean, I think Linda, she knew that Cole was gay. She was very clear on that. She understood that. But she wasn't interested in the romantic aspects of marriage because she just had such an abusive one. She was glad to be rid of marriage, as far as she was concerned, but she needed to be married. That said, I don't want to say that their marriage, I think, was just one of convenience. I think they truly were very suited to each other. They had a lot of interests in common. They both loved to travel extensively. They loved to entertain in a big way. They loved all forms of art and culture. They certainly had the money to indulge those interests. And Linda was very much, in my opinion, like his mother, very supportive, always in his corner. In fact, wherever they happened to be living, whether it was their rented palazzo in Venice or their apartment in Paris or the really luxurious apartment at the Waldorf Astoria here in New York, Linda would always arrange for him to be instructed, continuing instruction in musical composition, classical musical composition, and she would arrange to have the best composers and conductors of the time train him. And one of his songs in particular, I find you really can hear that classical underpinning. I'll show you what I mean. Strange dear, look true dear, when I'm close to you dear, stars fill the sky, so in love with you am I. Even without you, my arms fold about you. You know, darling, why so in love with you am I. In love with the night, mysterious, the night when you first were there. In love with my joy, delirious, when I knew that you could care. Deceive me, desert me, I'm yours till I die. So in love, so in love, so in love with you, my love, am I. Thank you. Some people have been asking me on occasion, why did I name this concert Tension and Release, the Cole Porter I Know and Love. They got the second half, but the tension and release was confusing to them. And I think some of the musicians in the room will know that there's a concept in music that says it's good to move from a moment of tension or suspension to a moment of release or resolve. And this constant interplay of tension, resolve, tension, release, suspension, resolve, it's something that affects us kind of on a gut level. It grabs our attention because for that moment, in a non-intellectual way, we feel a little unsettled, you know? And we wait for that resolution. And when it does come, it's made more sweet because of the tension that preceded it. I'll show you an example in this particular song. So in love, so in love. And here's what I'm saying. So in love with you, my love, am I. You hear that? So in love with you. You really, there's something about it that catches you, even though you don't really analyze it intellectually. You feel it, and you wait for that resolution. And I think it is much sweeter because you hear the tension before it. But anyway, that's why I call it tension and release. Now, a lot of people, I think that Cole Porter was a huge success right out of the box. But he actually wasn't. He struggled for several years. His first show was a complete flop. He would try to contribute a song or two to this person's show or that person's review. And he did start to gain traction towards the end of the 1920s. And developed really great success in the 30s and the 40s, and even through the 50s. And one of his most successful songs occurred in a show. It was Fred Astaire's very last Broadway show before he went to Los Angeles to work in films. And even at that time, it generated several hit records. The sheet music for it sold out almost before they could finish printing it. And even today, almost 100 years later, this song is considered one of Warner Brothers' crown jewels, because even today it generates about hundreds of thousands of dollars in royalties every year. There must be, I wonder how many songs we're generating today that are going to have that kind of staying power 100 years from now. Could happen, I don't know. But in any case, this is that song. Night and day, you are the one. Only you beneath the moon and under the sun. Whether near to me or far, no matter, darling, where you are, I think of you. Night and day, day and night. Why is it so that this longing for you follows wherever I go? In the roaring traffic's boom, in the silence of my lonely room, I think of you. Night and day, night and day, under the height of me, there's oh such a hungry yearning burning inside of me, and this torment won't be through till you let me spend my life making love to you, day and night, night and day, day and night, night and day, day and night, night and day.
Yeah.
Were any of you surprised that that was such a successful song? It's very well known. Perhaps the night and day quality. He mentions night and day quite a lot in his songs. And it's worth mentioning that Cole Porter didn't get his first Tony Award until he was 58. I was very surprised to learn that. But it's a lesson to us all. You just keep plugging away. You never know. Now in the mid-30s and 40s, the Porters moved to Los Angeles to work in films because Cole was writing for movies. And he took a little flack from the reviewers, the critics. They said, oh, he's writing down for the movies. He's writing lowbrow. And Cole had a good answer, which I agree with him completely. He said, you know, the highbrow stuff, those sophisticated references that I put in my shows, they're fun for me and about 16 other people. But I'm writing for the movies. I want to be accessible. And to my way of thinking, this is one of those songs that they had a problem with, I don't know, critics, right? To my way of thinking, this is not written down to anybody. I think it suits the film and its intended audience perfectly. I've got you under my skin. I've got you deep in the heart of me. So deep in my heart, you're really a part of me. I've my skin. I've tried so not to give in. I said to myself, this affair never will go so well. Why should I try to resist when, darling, I know so well I've got you under my skin. I'd sacrifice anything, come what may, for the sake of having you near, in spite of a warning voice that comes in the night and repeats in my ear. Don't you know, little fool, you'll never win. Use your mentality, wake up to reality. But each time I do, just the thought of you makes me stop before I begin, 'cause I've got you under my skin. I've got you under my skin. I've got you under my skin. I've got you under my skin.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now, as I said, Linda understood about Cole being gay. That was fine. That worked for both of them. But while they were in Los Angeles, Cole's extramarital romantic exploits became a little too overt. I think in her opinion, he was being indiscreet, and she moved back to the East Coast for a while. And perhaps it's because his thinking was something along these lines. It's the wrong time and the wrong place. Though your face is charming, it's the wrong face. It's not his face, but such a charming face that it's alright with me. It's the wrong song in the wrong style. Though your smile is lovely, it's the wrong smile. It's not his smile, but such a lovely smile that it's alright with me. You can't know how happy I am that we met. I'm strangely attracted to you. Someone I'm trying so hard to forget. Don't you want to forget someone too? It's the wrong game with the wrong chips. Though your lips are tempting, they're the wrong lips. They're not his lips, but they're such tempting lips. So if some night you're free, well, it's alright. It's alright with me. I always feel like that song should be held in set in a very elegant bar, a hotel bar, especially a hotel bar, because hotel bars tend to have a lot of beds handy. You got it. Now, when Cole was 46, he had a very bad horseback riding accident. The horse stumbled and it fell and landed on both his legs, crushing him a lot. I mean, really seriously. And so he was in agony, lying on the ground waiting to be rescued, and he thought, this is very Cole Porter, I think. He said, oh, you know what? I'll distract myself from the agony I'm in by composing a song. And this is the song. Is this an earthquake or simply a shock? Is this the real turtle soup or merely the mock? Should I blame my cocktail for this feeling of joy? Or is what I feel the real McCoy? Is this for all time, or just a lark? Is that Granada I see, or only Asbury Park? Is this a fancy not worth thinking of? Or is it at long last love? Is it at long last love? Sometimes I wonder if they had taken longer to rescue him, he might have written a longer song. Now, over the next decades, Cole would undergo 35 operations on his legs, and he was in constant pain. And he would often say that music, making music, writing music, was one of the only things that would relieve him, give him a little respite from the pain he was always in. And I think he was onto something, because there is medical evidence to prove that the same part of our brain that processes pain is the same part that processes music. And that's why music therapy can be very effective for people who have chronic pain. Because it is possible to some degree to block the experience of pain through the experience of music. I think a lot of us have experienced that. You know, you might be exercising or something, and you find that when you have music, you exercise better, farther, faster, harder. So I think he was right about that. And I know he would have written a lot anyway. He was very prolific. He's known to have written like a song a day for decades on end, at least a song a day. But after this terrible accident, I do think that music was a saving grace for him. Probably saved his sanity. Lynn, of course, returned to him soon after that, because she couldn't leave him in that condition on his own. And like I say, she was really always there in his corner, there to support him and comfort him. And I think of all the songs he wrote, this one in particular kind of encapsulates how I think maybe he felt about her. Whenever skies look gray to me and trouble begins to brew, whenever the winter winds blow too cold, I concentrate on you. When fortune says no way to me, and people declare I'm through, whenever the blues become my only song, I concentrate on you, on your smile so sweet, so tender. When first our souls combine, or the light in your eyes when you surrender, and once again our arms Thank you. Cole would continue to work through his pain for decades. And he still had a lot of friends, he still entertained, but not in a big way like he used to. He would entertain a few friends at a time at his apartment, wherever they happened to be living. And he would always greet his guests seated. And after they'd been socializing for a while, a very posh butler would come into the room and suggest that perhaps the guests would like to repair to the salon for a few moments. And of course, everyone knew, oh, they're going to move him. Because they knew he couldn't walk, but he didn't want them to see. So of course, they would go off to the salon and wait for the butler to summon them and bring them back into the dining room, where they would find Cole already seated at the dining room table. And no one would say anything, because Cole wanted to keep the illusion that he was fine, everything was okay. And of course, good friends want to support good friends and that kind of thing. Now, when Cole was 61, his mother passed away. She was his first muse, his first rock of Gibraltar, so to speak, his first safe harbor. And then 2 years later, Linda passed away from emphysema. She was his second muse, and they'd been together for 35 years. And a few years after that, he finally allowed the doctors to amputate one of his legs, the one that was the most painful, the most damaged. And there's a story that Noel Coward tells. They were very good friends. He said he visited him shortly after the operation. He said, I could see that the lines of pain had been erased from my friend's forehead. And the interesting thing is that after the operation, Cole never wrote another song, not one. And I have two thoughts as to why that is. Possibly he'd just written so many songs, he just felt he'd written everything he needed to write. He didn't need to write anymore, and he really could have put his pen down long ago. But also perhaps he really was self-medicating with music. And once the pain had been removed, he no longer needed that to, relieve himself from the pain. In any case, I have one more song that I want to share with you. I do want to thank you all for coming. It's really sweet of you, to this Ellington room at Manhattan Plaza. It's got a cachet now because of Alicia Keys, right? I also want to thank Diana Cruz and Jason Bachonsky, he's our general manager, and Irving Gonzalez for the use of the room. Thank you very much. And I hope you stick around. We have some wine, probably, if you want. We have the room for another half hour or so. So I'll leave you with this song. You'd be so nice to come home to. You'd be so nice by the fire, while the breeze on high sang a lullaby. You'd be all that I could desire. Under stars, chilled by the winter, under an August moon burning above, you'd be so nice. You'd be paradise to come home to. And Lord, thank you very much.
Thank you.